All right, y'all. It is the cap, no cap, recap. I wish I was in the back so I could hit the horn. Did you get rid of my horn, Rev? You did get rid of my horn, I think.
Think so. No, I think I might have the horn. I think I might still have the horn.
You might still have the horn?
Yeah, I got to check.
Let's check and make sure that we're coming through. All right. I'll make sure we got audio before we get too far around. Let's see. All right. Bear with us. We haven't had a show in a minute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let's
turn
check
the volume
this.
up real quick there.
Check. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Y'all know what I do.
See what happens when he's been gone?
I get indignant.
Yeah, you good.
Why is mine not playing?
It don't even matter, Red. Don't even worry about it.
All right.
So, let's catch everyone up. We got the chat. Rob says, good afternoon, gentlemen. Looking and sounding good. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate you. So, Rev, what's happening? We haven't seen you in a while. We haven't had a show in a few weeks.
Yes. I've been out on sabbatical. Let's just leave it at that. I'm back.
Okay. I'll take it. So, are you R&R, rest, restored, rejuvenated?
I'm here. That's what, yeah, yesterday's gone. I'm here today.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And tomorrow's not guaranteed. So let's, we're going to be in the moment.
All right.
Enjoy that.
So for all of you that have not seen this show before, this is the No Cap Recap. And what that means is the Rev has his service on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. here at New Horizon Ministries, 4040 Wheaton Way, Suite 203. All are welcome. Bus service runs on Saturday, so you can come. And after he has his sermon, we will recap his sermon. Now, I come from the secular side, right? Because this is for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic, atheist, agnostic. It doesn't matter. I look at the Bible as I have some duality in it, right? I look at it as the holy book, but I also look at it as a resource that people can use to improve on their professional or personal life.
Amen.
And so that's how I look at it. So it's kind of it's a way for us to establish a dialogue and hopefully help other folks that are out there. And in full disclosure, it actually also helps me. So
me as well.
Because I consider myself a lifelong learner. So I always take an opportunity to learn something new. And so that's important to me.
Amen.
So you want to get into the...
Yeah. So I'm going to say one more thing about the show.
Sure.
We recap what I preach. But the other party is the no cap, where we keep it 100 about what I preached, and digging deeper into that and its meaning and so forth. And that's a big part because we talk about that a lot, just integrity and honesty and intellectual honesty. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, intellectual honesty.
Intellectual honesty. So I tend to, say things that in my mind everybody already know. And so he keeps me intellectually honest and understanding that, people, my forehead's not made out of glass. So.
Well, and I think it's important to state what is intellectual honesty. So if you're having a conversation or a debate or even an argument with someone, sometimes they're hanging on your words. They're listening to respond or to catch you, right? And so they know that you intended something else, but they're going to call you on that thing because, you said it wrong, or this is how you said it, or this is how you meant it, when that really wasn't how you meant it, or this is how you intended it to come across, right? So if we're building trust with each other, if I say something that seems kind of off, you got to look at the person and say, did they intend for it to be that way? Well, probably not, because I know Marwan. Probably not, because I know the Rev. You know what I'm saying? And then you ask for clarification. But if you operate on that paradigm, then you're less likely to have miscommunication, right?
Amen.
And you're going to be able to get to where it is you want to be. So how we do it is I'll read the verse or verses that the Rev preached from on Saturday. And sorry, there was no cap recap Saturday because of Doc Loves the Kids and
busy weekend.
Marvin Williams was in
busy
town
with
Summit 360, and then also New Day Ministries had their ribbon cutting. So we were all over the place on Saturday.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes I have to cover those community events, but otherwise the no cap recap is right after service at 1:15. So you can come on down, listen to the word. We have a little bit of time in between to kind of, talk and socialize. And then we do the show, which is open, right? For discussion and dialogue. So,
that means it's open to everyone. So it's not just me and him conversating. The audience is encouraged to participate with their questions and their whatever their takeaway was. So yeah,
for sure. All right, so let me go ahead and read this verse. All right, and it is scrolling at the bottom there. Romans 12:1, living sacrifices to God. Beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Why are you looking over my shoulder like, what am I reading?
What?
The New King James Version.
You forgot a word.
Where?
It
looks like a number 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service.
Amen.
So, Rev, you preach from Romans 12:1.
Yes.
What was your intent there?
So, in this, our focus was being a living sacrifice, and what that looks like, what that entails, and it was kind of in some ways it was twofold. It's what that meant and what it looked like as a Christian, what it means to be a living sacrifice for God, and that was his main intent to get that across. What does that mean to be a living sacrifice for God? And in addressing that, of course, we talked about the way many of us sacrifice in other areas of our lives in order to be successful. And I didn't go in as great a depth into that. I just used it kind of as a springboard, a background to the main message of being a living sacrifice for God.
All right. Some of the things that I thought was important was maybe having a definition of sacrifice.
So let's go over that. That was part of the message. This particular message, you guys, I actually handwrit. I didn't type it out or whatever. I may get it translated and uploaded onto the website, but
to Aramaic, I might get it translated.
Not translated. You know what I mean? See, be intellectually honest. We just talked about that.
Okay,
don't trip me up. Don't trip me up on my words.
So I might have it translated. It's like, okay,
don't be embarrassing me in front of the company, man. Come on, man.
Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Y'all see how he be doing me?
I couldn't help it.
Be beating up on me. All right, definitions. All right, so we gave 4 definitions for the word sacrifice, and our main we focus on the last 2, but number 1, sacrifice. To sacrifice is meaning an offering to a deity, to God. Something precious, to offer something precious to a deity or offer something precious to God. The second way sacrifice can be defined as anything consecrated that is offered to God or a deity. The third way sacrifice can be defined is the destruction. And again, this third and fourth is what we use for our sermon, the destruction or surrender of something for the sake of something else. The destruction or surrender of something for the sake of something else, i.e., the way Jesus surrendered himself to the cross for our sake, for your sake, for us. The fourth definition for sacrifice, the loss of profit or grievous loss incurred in selling under unfavorable conditions. So the way some of us may, kind of feel like, I work, 80 hard hours and, I got to sacrifice a huge chunk of that pay to Uncle Sam at the end. No, let me stop. Okay, so that's sacrifice. I'm just saying.
So you talked about the last two verses,
Yeah,
and those were scrolling as you read those off.
last two
Yeah. So you want to go into
definitions.
the context of the sermon in
Yeah.
regards to those last two definitions there?
Let me. You know what? Let me just give a brief overview of the whole thing, and then we can. That way we can.
Remember, this the cap, no recap.
Yeah, I'm not gonna preach the whole sermon again, and you guys are free to go on to our Facebook page and watch the sermon. That's the only place it was this week. We'll get that fixed later. Anyway, so again, we talked about sacrifice and just the importance of it. Some of the key things. Most of the time, Christians tend to think in terms of that fourth definition. Many people tend to think in the terms of that fourth definition when it comes to sacrifice towards the religious or biblical in the biblical sense. One of the things that I wanted to touch on is that sacrifice doesn't always equate to suffering. It's not always about a loss. And so we don't always have to have this negative connotation about sacrifice. Um, uh, Look at sacrifice and think about sacrifice. In other areas of our lives with no hesitation and no problems, i.e., if you're playing sports, you gotta, kind of sometimes sacrifice even your physical well-being. The football player that'll throw himself at another, player or in the air to catch a ball. The student who will, trying to keep and maintain that 4.0 will forego certain social engagements in order to study or whatever. The business owner who's trying to open up another location and bring its business to the level of a franchisee. In marriages we have to sacrifice. As members of families we have to sacrifice. There's a lot of different areas in which we already make sacrifices willingly, um, and without hesitation to be successful. And that's what Paul was alluding to in this particular verse was about the necessity of the Christian sacrificing to be successful in our service to the master. There's six key points that I touched on. One was the living sacrifice is because that's our main focus, being a living sacrifice. So first, the living sacrifice is a sacrifice that is alive. Uh, Second, the living sacrifice is to be a holy sacrifice. The living sacrifice is a complete sacrifice. The living sacrifice is a voluntary sacrifice. And the living sacrifice is a joyful sacrifice. Is a joyful sacrifice. And the last one, number six, was the living sacrifice is a satisfying sacrifice. The conclusion that I came to was that one, God has given His Son to save us from our sin, and that's that reasonable service. The only thing that He asks for us in return is for us to give up those things in our lives that would cause us ruin and destruction anyway, which would send us to hell. And you know what I'm saying, just like kind of send us on a bad path through life. So he's not asking, to change us in asking us to be a sacrifice from who we are. He's just asking us to surrender or give up or destroy, the negative and bad things in our life. And God approaches us on the basis of his grace and mercy, so that he can give us the richest gifts that anybody can experience. And the last bit of the conclusion was that if we would just willingly become a living sacrifice, if we would just willingly give to God that place which rightfully belongs to him, then we can begin to know what it really means and how it truly feels to live life on the highest plane and in its richest quality. And so sacrifice brings about the better things. So that's kind of the sermon in a nutshell.
All right, I appreciate that.
Amen.
Now, as I always say, one, I love these conversations that we have, and as you know, for me, I'm always looking for teachable moments, right?
Amen.
And so while I like to try to help other people, I'm also looking to help myself. How can I continuously improve?
Yes, yes.
And so those last two definitions of sacrifice, the loss, the example of goods, as an example, the loss of goods sold at a sacrifice. Maybe you're selling your goods or your service at a discount so you can get more business, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So what I love about this is, and your cousin, was that your cousin, your nephew who was in here earlier?
My cousin, yeah.
All right, shout out to your cousin. We were having a discussion about what really came down to a pedagogy, if you will, in a style or manner in which you are going to teach other people.
So let me, break that pedagogy down, because
I just did. I just gave the definition.
Yeah, well, say that this is the definition. Not everybody got a master's degree. What's a pedagogy?
I just said a methodology of how you teach, right?
What does that mean?
How you teach. What's your teaching style?
Oh, okay.
How you're going to go about the work of teaching, if you will.
I'm just playing the devil.
I know he is. But so some people want to teach by only focusing on the positive. Some people will teach by pointing out the negative. And some people may teach by, using both. And if you look at the Bible, I believe, is both, right? It's a historical text that is taught in parables that you can apply to your life, and it fits for every circumstance.
So interestingly, that's good, because in the sermon, I used the parable of the Good Samaritan that Jesus taught. About people know the story of the Good Samaritan, but I used that parable in the sermon. Yeah.
So my thought on that is, sacrifice doesn't have to be a negative thing, and that was part of our discussion. And the teaching style of focusing on where you're going and focusing on the future, focusing on the positive, versus talking about, look at where my situation is now. I had come this long way, but now I find myself here again, or I'm worse off than I was in another state. I should be here at this point in time. And you can use that, and that works for some people. But sometimes folks can get caught up in what is currently and not focus on the future. And I think that was the point that the cousin was making. And that is important. And so for some people, they can get caught up in that quagmire of negative self-talk, right?
Yeah,
Analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
And so when I think of sacrifice, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It doesn't have to be this zero-sum thing. I'm going to give up smoking because it's bad for me, or it's causing issues. I'm going to stop smoking because my health is going to improve. I'm going to be able to breathe easier. I'm going to be able to participate in the lives of my children or my grandchildren.
So I don't really see that as a sacrifice, but I get what you're saying. But
well, let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
You just cut me off right in the middle.
Well, go ahead.
But so a lot of people do look at it like that, right?
Okay,
so I want to go to school and get this education. And I've told this story 1,000 times, right? But that means I can't go to the party. I can't hang out with everyone else because I have to go home and study.
Oh, you're talking about smoking.
Well, it could be cigarettes too, right? For a lot of people, cigarettes are like, I got to have a cigarette when I get stressed out. I got to have a cigarette when I wake up in the morning. I got to have one after I eat. I constantly have to have a cigarette.
I'm a chain smoker, so I can't sit in class.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on in, Sean. How you doing? Come on in. So for me, sacrifice doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can very much be a positive thing. Yeah. And so you look at it as you are making a choice or a decision, right? Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't have to be a thing that you're giving away. You can look at it as to what are you going to gain? Why are you stopping this behavior or this action or these thoughts? What are you going to get on the other side of it? And typically, when we make the sacrifice, whether it's for salvation, which is your side of the house, or if it's because I want a better job, I need some education, I need to get physically healthy or mentally healthy, the other side of that, then all of a sudden, not really a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's how you look at things can empower you to be more successful.
Yeah. And again, in the sermon, I definitely, kind of was hitting on that. And one of the key points that I was making was that, and I think I just said that sacrifice doesn't equal suffering. It doesn't have to equal suffering, and we don't have to approach a sacrifice in the mindset of, oh, this is gonna, cause me suffering and grief and, I'm losing out or whatever else. If we have that mindset of I'm giving up to gain,
well, it's like you said, are you really giving up?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You're flipping it on its head.
My co-pastor, one of my spiritual parents, she would always say, you can't put nothing in a closed hand, and so like if you're clenching onto that $5 bill, ain't nobody gonna be able to put 100 in there, or 1,000 if you like, I got this 5, and they like, okay, well give me the 5, I got something more for you. You got to let it go. You got to give up sometimes and sacrifice to, in order to gain, and it can be, sometimes sacrifice can be counterintuitive, to, our natural instincts or inclinations. But again, it's mindset, it's where are you coming from with what, where are you coming from mentally in approaching the situation?
So let me ask, Sean, you're here. Sean's been on the conduit before. So our conversation today is around sacrifice and what does sacrifice mean? The no cap recap. Rev has his service on Saturdays, and then I come from the worldly or the secular side of it. So it's where Christianity and the world meets, right? So for me, what I was telling the audience earlier, I look at the Bible as a resource, right? And so as any text, whether it's a calculus textbook or a history textbook, we can use these things to make improvements on our life. And we can pull away the religious aspects of it and just use it to improve our lives. And so
or you can keep the religious aspects of it and still help it to use.
We're talking about this side of the house. That's all.
I'm talking about my side of the house.
but the point of it is we're so siloed off and divisive, right? In this day and time, are you a Christian? Are you a Catholic? Are you a Muslim? Are you an atheist? Are you agnostic? Mm-hmm. Where can we meet in the middle and create dialogue in all things where we can all benefit? So if you don't mind, what does sacrifice mean to you?
Come on. drag a chair around. Come on. I ain't gonna be able to hear you back there. And come here, doggy. Doggy, you guys, he has a bark that's bigger than his bite, and he just likes to, say hi to everybody. So that's what who y'all heard barking. Say hi.
You want to give him the mic, Rev? I'll just
I'm
split it with you.
So, what does sacrifice mean to me? Well, what's the context? Is it like, what are we talking about?
Well, we just defined sacrifice as a loss. For example, a loss of goods, or what is number three?
So number three, the first one was the destruction or surrender of something for the sake of something else. Mm-hmm. Second way we're using it is the loss of profit or grievous loss incurred in selling under unfavorable conditions.
And that's just the Webster's dictionary of it. But our conversation of sacrifice is really, what does it mean to you, and how can you use that, or how to use that in your personal life to achieve personal or professional group dynamic goals, things like that.
Yeah, this is where the rubber hits the road, right?
Yes.
We talked about a little bit on Thursday. A big theme for the IWW is solidarity, and our motto for that, we should have talked about it, is an injury to one is an injury to all. And so we try and drive that in to our membership to incorporate that wholesale. So when you see, that's a message of sacrifice, right? For me, it's a message of sacrifice. And for me, it means if I have a coworker in need, I need to put my immediate needs to the side for the greater good to help them out, because her injury is my injury. And in that regard, I can show compassion, I can listen better, and I can be prepared to help them out for whatever their ask is. I think in another way I think about sacrifice too is like drugs and alcohol. Like if you're running your life through drugs and alcohol, you're sacrificing your best self for a substance. And I think that's a bad trade-off, like a short-term gain for whatever that substance is giving you for your long-term health. So those are the two ways I've been thinking about it a lot lately.
No, that's why it's so powerful to have many voices at the table, because you flipped it the other way, right? You said, hey, sometimes you're sacrificing a better life. You're sacrificing peace for, the short-term whatever, right? Oh man, I appreciate that.
I do too, and I wish I'd maybe talk with you on this before I preached it, because I really like that. Like that's just another way, And like I said, sometimes we're not even kind of looking at it in terms of sacrifice. But you're right. Like we can sometimes sacrifice the good in our lives, for negative things, and like, that's a huge one. Like, alcohol and drugs, in abusive, used in abusive ways. I think, anyway, that can be very detrimental, and that's a sacrifice. You're right. You're sacrificing, the best part of you for, like substance. Like, that's horrible. But you know what? And I can also, man, you just opened my brain up. Like I can see that, like in relationships, in a relationship type way as well. Like where you're making those sacrifices and or whatever, and like the relationship is toxic. You know what I'm saying? And it's not good, and so it doesn't behoove you. Anything that doesn't behoove you, I guess like you're giving up the best. Like, okay, I'm gonna stop ranting. Good one, bro. Good one. Thank you. Thank you.
What I would add to that is, I don't think the examples need to be that stark. I mean, it's good because you got to have a framework so that you can even start to conceptualize how that may be manifesting in your life, right? What are the good things that what are the bad behaviors or negative self-talk or negative thoughts that you were sacrificing for a better situation, right? What's keeping you stuck in your life that you're not willing to, or maybe you're not even cognizant of the fact that you are sacrificing this. And so this can give some context on really taking inventory of what's going on in your life. You know, typically what you want different in your life, but what is it right now that you're prioritizing more in your life that's getting in the way, right? Yeah. For me, it's taking time out to prepare healthier foods, you know, not eating so many box foods, right? Saying, hey, I'm too busy. I've got all these obligations and, you know, I'm being pulled in 1,000 different directions. So, you know, I'm going to eat that box food. I'm going to nuke something in the microwave instead of doing some food prep on a Sunday or whatever the case may be. And so I'm sacrificing my health. I'm sacrificing my energy because I'm eating a bunch of carbs versus fruits and vegetables. And so I'm really living counter to, you know, me being the best me that I can be. So what would I need to do? What am I willing to sacrifice to do that or prioritize? Because I could take it from that and start to change that mindset and say, is it really a sacrifice to say I'm going to take some time out? Are you going to, we're really going to, is it really a sacrifice to take time out to do some food prep when on the other side of that, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to be more productive. And I'll actually be able to take more time out. So these are inventories that I can take in my own life. You know, we were walking, well, mostly me. You started to join me there right before it got hot. What? Yeah, I'm gonna call you out.
It is what it is. Look, you know me. I have very little shame about things, and I can accept the truth of life. And you know, I was not completely faithful in our walking scheme, and you know, yeah. So
yeah, well, but neither was I.
I did not sacrifice the way that I should have. So yeah. And that's negative on me because I really want to get rid of not so much the weight because I'm okay with my size. It's my shape, you know. Like I'm carrying a lot of belly fat, so I want to like slim that down and you know.
Yeah, fried chicken pastor gut. It's okay.
You know what? But I in that aspect, like okay, so in the physical part, I haven't been sacrificing the way I should. In the food intake part. I have been doing a lot better. I've really cut down on burgers. I had a burger like a couple of days ago from McDonald's, and like I can't remember like from past that like when the last time I had a ordered a burger from a restaurant or whatever.
Talk about how you've been feeling from making the change in your diet.
Actually, well, I feel better. I have more energy. I don't feel as bloated all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, actually, I am seeing some decrease in my waist. You know, my pants are, fitting a lot looser, and I'm having to put on a belt, which is, like I ain't got a problem with that.
So instead of plumber's butt, there's preacher's butt.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not one of these saggers. You know, I like to keep the color of my underwear private. That's just between me and God. You know, and my wife. So, but like, yeah, I'm feeling better on that, and I do still intend on incorporating the health physical part into it, and that's something we were talking about earlier. Like, just kind of, I had to take stock and evaluation of how I was doing things and how I was living, and just the amount of time that it was consuming, and just like at the end of the day, just being not so much physically, but just mentally, just like, and I don't want to do anything else. Where like I'm changing that up. We're gonna have a new schedule. I'm thinking might only 1 or 2 days that I might be in the office.
Well, don't roll it out till it's time.
But I said might, maybe.
Here's what I want you to tell folks.
I'll tell you tomorrow.
Oftentimes we look at if we're looking outside at someone else, we see what their struggle is, and then all of a sudden we may see the finished product, but we don't understand what got them on that path to where it was sustainable. So can you just reflect a little bit on when you started changing what it was that you were eating and consuming? what was that catalyst, and how did you build on that success day in and day out, and not going to Popeyes or KFC or making different choices to where now it's a habit? Can you reflect on that?
So, and I'll be just kind of real.
And I'm gonna ask you that too.
Yeah, I'll be kind of frank and real honest. For myself, I am just I have a very strong mental will, and so like if I want to do something, it's just like that's what I'm gonna do. Like, and I really, yeah, like so. I
Well,
determined.
let me push back on that, because if you have the strong mental will, why weren't you doing it earlier?
Because I wasn't ready to. Like let's, and that's what I said. I'm gonna be honest. Like so, like I wasn't ready to. I didn't want to at that point. So like I can get in a point where like it's like okay, I want to do something and I intend to do it, but I'm not at a point where I'm ready and wanting to do it. Like I'm kind of enjoying where I'm at right now.
So the no cap recap.
Yeah,
you weren't ready to put the work in.
Exactly.
Got you.
So
okay.
like if if I'm not 100% there yet, like I'm not gonna like fake it and force it because it's not gonna be successful. You know what I'm saying? And I realize that about myself.
So are you saying to people that they should just keep doing crack until they're ready 100% to stop?
No, no, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is the truth is most people that go into rehab and they're not honest with themselves and at a point where they're ready to give up, they usually relapse. And until you have a made up mind and say like, yeah, this is what I want for myself, you're most often not successful in making those changes, because often you're making those changes based off of someone else's desire for your well-being or your success in a certain particular area.
So what you're saying is you got to want it for yourself.
You do. So now, can I get back to what I was saying?
Hold on, one more thing. Because what I would tell folks is that
me, but I can't
here's the thing. Because I want to be clear on that.
Go ahead.
This is a pretty serious point.
With you.
Is, I would tell people, because I use the example of crack, which is serious, right?
It is.
That even if you're not 100%, that you should still try.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah,
that's the clarity that I'm making there.
Yeah, and that's what I said.
Sean, you want to jump in there?
Hold on.
Well, there's three of us here.
Yeah,
so,
but can I finish giving my answer?
No, go ahead.
You cut me off like 50 times, ask me a question, and then gonna re-ask it, and then tell me I can't finish with the first one.
Because you go for so long, Rev.
I'm a preacher, bro. Like,
yeah,
you get that? I'm a preacher. Anyway, I'm not gonna go for so long.
Don't hit the player, hit the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, et tu brute?
You asked anyway. Here's the thing. You know what? All right, Sean, you go. I forgot what the question. What was the question?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Sean it'll kick in with Sean.
Anyway,
we're talking about like how you change your habits and change how you sacrifice yourself.
So here's the thing with me, and like when I finally gave up smoking, right? I stopped smoking several times, but when I finally quit smoking, I stopped smoking several times, but when I finally quit smoking, it was because I wanted to stop. I had a conversation with my doctor and I told her, she was like, oh, smoking's not good for you, especially considering, your particular health issues. It's really, really not good for you. My rebuttal to the doctor was like, yeah, I understand that, but I enjoy smoking. So I'm going to continue to smoke. And I did, and when I got ready to stop smoking, I stopped smoking. And that's the thing, like, and even in the crack context, like, yeah, you should attempt to stop it as many times as it take until you finally, understand that, like, yeah, this is what you need to do is quit. But I have, like, in other areas, I have like a strong mental like fortitude where, like, if I'm not 100%, what I'm saying, into something, like I can make an attempt and do something, but unless like I decide for myself, like this is what I want, then I'm usually not, successful in it. And I think that is true for most people when they're really honest with themselves. Until they are 100% bought in, they're, true success, and overcoming doesn't come until they reach that made up point in their mind, like, yeah, this is what it's gonna be. So that was what I was getting at. I'll turn it over to Sean now because I talk so much.
Well, I'm just looking at the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you both said it. It takes honesty, right? Change takes honesty. For me, I can talk about something that was hard to be honest about and hard to change was alcohol in my life. Alcohol is a very destructive presence in my life, and I wanted to stop it and I wanted to stop drinking, but I wasn't admitting to myself the truth of how destructive it was. And so when I hit that truth, the want and the truth lined up, and I was willing to seek out help and get advice. And the advice that I got was it's all just about habit changing. I had to change a lot of the people I was hanging out with who were pushing me to drink, the culture of drinking. Stop going, literally like change my route home on the drive or the walk home so I wasn't going near bars. When you go into the grocery store and avoiding the liquor aisle, like making sure I'm eating 3 meals a day, making sure checking in with people, things like that, changing that habit. And it took like 3-4 years before I finally just like got it completely out of my life. But it didn't start until I was honest and I wanted it.
Yeah.
And it still took time because it's like these things are powerful sometimes and it's hard to stop and you can fall back into it.
Yeah.
So how did you give yourself grace? Because you said it took 3 or 4 years. So when you started drinking again, how did you give yourself grace to not say, forget this, man, I can't do it. I'm just going to just keep drinking.
Yeah, well, like it's common. I started drinking again and then convinced myself that I was okay this time. Like I got this time. I've done sobriety. I can handle this. So it took a few relapses to then where I was like starting to be giving myself the grace. I relapsed a few times, met some people who were like, yeah, this is just the name of the game. It's a long-term fight. And if you go one day if you were drinking every day for 3 years and you make it one day, that's a win. And if you go 5 years, if you were a heavy drinker and you go 5-10 years and then something comes around and you have a drink, that's just shit happens. So, sorry for, relapses like that happen. And I learned the grace by screwing up a few times and like learning just to be like, this is just part of the process. This is just it.
So I want to say something to what you're saying. Cause like, I can relate with that, not with the alcohol, but I've been in my current relationship. I'm married to my wife. We got 4 kids. We met when we were kids, when we were 18. I went through a long time in that relationship where I was being unfaithful. Like I would go through periods of infidelity in that relationship. And it wasn't until what you're saying, one, being honest with myself that like, this isn't good, for me, for the relationship, for my family, for anybody. Like, this is really just not good. And having that line up with wanting to stop it, like I really understand that, but it's on a like different situation. But I get that. That makes so much sense. Like, yeah,
you're breaking a bad habit. It's all kind of the
and it
same.
wasn't like overnight either.
No.
Yeah. 2 things. One, I just want to thank you both for being that vulnerable. Those are very personal revelations to share with the audience in that way. What I wanted to ask you, Rev, is how is your marriage now? Because you do openly talk about it, right? Mm-hmm. And how is that, or is it an open wound for your wife when you continue to talk about it? Have you guys healed and you move past it, or does every time she hear you talk about it, it's like a dagger?
That's a good question. You know what? Yeah, no, she's at work, so go ahead and call her. You know what? But no, seriously, that's a good.
That's a different show.
Yeah, that's a good question that I actually need to have with her because I've never even asked her. It's just like, look, I look at it as like telling on myself, like, look, I was out there being stupid. I messed up, because for so long, it was a thing that was, in the shadows and creeping around and hiding and, like, I don't want nobody to find out and, hush, hush. And, cause it's infidelity, you know what I'm saying? And so now it's like, yeah, I was stupid, which I was, and so when I'm saying it, I'm hoping that, there's somebody out there that's possibly going through that, that's realizing like, yeah, I'm feeling that way, and or I've been doing that, and like, yeah, I can get past that. I'm hoping that, and praying that like there's, in my telling on me, that somebody else can, move past their infidelity. And I never considered to ask her like, hey, is it okay if I tell this story? But it's part of my testimony that, this is one of the things, this infidelity is what really brought me into my walk with Christ. So like I can't help but share it.
Well, and I guess what I wanted to just kind of continue to elaborate, while it's cathartic for you and you're also helping people, and that's what brought you to God, which is all very powerful things, is it at her expense?
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting.
Yeah.
So I maybe that's not something you come back and share. How she ends up feeling, but
well, love, I do apologize if this has been at your expense.
and that would be a sacrifice for her because she hasn't mentioned it to this point because you don't know, right? So she is sacrificing um, how she's feeling about it and holding that in so that you can strengthen your walk with God and help other people.
And I'm sacrificing by exposing, a flaw in a previous flaw in my character, and you know, but again, like I said, I don't have much shame about most things these days. I realize that I'm trying to please Him, and when that's my goal and my focus is to please God. So I've lost a lot of shame.
Well, again, I appreciate you guys being so forthright in your sacrifices. Um, let's kind of switch again and maybe pull to something that's not so huge, something a little smaller.
We came out with
Yeah.
Well, I cheated on my wife when I was a kid. What's your problem?
Yeah. Hey, doggy, it's your turn.
Yeah.
What are some? I would like to give some. Yeah, Brandon says that's deep. That is deep, right?
He ate my piece of chicken. That's doggy's tail.
And that's why it is powerful. And I think the way society is set up now, we're doing a better job, but there's a lot of stigma around men seeking mental health. We're just supposed to swallow it and man up, and we suffer in silence. And suicide rates and all those things are very serious in men. And if we're all thinking, oh, we're just supposed to buck up and take it, you're not going through anything because you never share it. You're not going through, so I better not share it, right? I gotta show that I'm tough and everything else. Being vulnerable, I think, is very powerful and helpful for other folks to feel like they're not alone, that other people are going through things and they're going through some big ass things. These are huge, huge issues, and there is a other side to it. There is a peace, there is a serenity of overcoming these things, and you too can also do that when you're ready to try it and understand that grace is important to give yourself because it might not take the first time, but continue to try. And as Sean was saying, right, changing your friends, right? I talked about that when I started, at Olympic College, right? I had to stop spending as much time with my brother and his friends because they were drinking and playing video games and hanging out with the girls and barbecuing, and I needed to read textbooks, I needed to write papers, I needed to study. And it took a while. It wasn't immediate that I just stopped. But what I found was, for a little while, I lived in both worlds, right? I'd go to class, I'd finish the work before they woke up and started taking their showers because they're not getting up till 1 or 2 in the afternoon, right? And that's not what I wanted. And so it didn't, as I kept moving forward, the less and less it seemed like a sacrifice because I was moving into the life that I wanted to have, right? So I was putting away those things, and I was watching that success. And I try to remind people all the time when they're on their journey that may take years to stop and look back at all the footprints in the sand of all the progress that you've made. Oftentimes we get so caught up in the fact that we're not there yet. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? No, I'm not there yet, but man, I'm a whole hell of a lot further down this road than I was before. And that's reinvigorating, right? It's like, yeah, you know what? I have done a damn good job. I have come a long way. I'm not all the way there yet, but man, I just got my second win. Let's push on, right? And what else can I add in my life? You talked about, hey, you know what? I changed my diet and that's feeling pretty good. I wanted to exercise, but I couldn't really do both things at the same time. You don't have to do it all at the same time. Make those implementations slowly. All right, I got this beat now. This is now a positive habit that I have in my life. Okay, now I'm ready to try to add in some walking or whatever form of exercise there is. Setting my watch to stand every 59 minutes or whatever the case may be, walking around the house or walking around the church. Yeah, go ahead.
So he says I talk a lot. Anyways, there he goes. No, that's something I was saying earlier to my cousin. The thing is, well, two things I want to point out in what you were saying. You said that it didn't seem as much like a sacrifice, even though it still is a sacrifice, and it may not seem as much. And that's the whole thing of getting to that point of realizing and recognizing that a sacrifice does not equate to suffering. And so when you put the two words together, you got to put that equal with the slash through it. I don't know the name of that not sign. Equal. Yeah, not equal sign. Yeah,
there might be a specific math term for it.
Yeah. And so it's not equal, so like, just do it, right? And then two, understand, like you're just mentioning about the healthy thing. The whole thing with the eating and the walking was to improve my health and get myself to a body shape that makes me comfortable, not comfortable, but because I am comfortable with how I look. I ain't got no shame with my belly. Anyway, but it's to get me to a place that I desire to be. And the thing I was telling my cousin was earlier, we were talking about something in this line, but I'm doing it. It's not that I'm going to do it. When you decide to take a journey or go on to a journey, as soon as you take that first step, you're now doing the journey. And so even though I'm not at the physical exercise part, because I am, and even though I'm not 100%, what I'm saying, with the eating part, I recognize that I'm still doing the journey. I've made and I'm sticking to changes in my diet, and it's not all at once because I wouldn't be, I don't think I would be successful in that, being honest with myself, but incrementally, I can, begin to weed out, bad things and replace them with more positive things. And so that'll just be another step in the journey. And so once you take that very first step, recognize that you are doing the journey. You are doing the thing that you desire to do. And it's just that you have not made it to the end of that journey. And I think a lot of times we think in terms of like, oh, I'm not successful until I made it to the end of the journey. But no, you're successful once you begin the journey.
As we wrap up, one thing that I want to add that I think is really important is do not try to keep up with the Joneses, right? Your progress and your success is not predicated on the success and the speed to which someone else is able to change their situation, right? We're always measuring that. It's like, hey, I started this diet or this exercise, and this person lost 5 pounds in the first week, and I gained 2 pounds, right? And you're just down. It's going to be different for different people. So don't get caught up into that. Your journey is your journey. If I could, from you gentlemen, as we wrap here in the next 2 minutes, could you give us, okay, give us three three things that people can do to help with making the sacrifices in their lives to gain the outcomes that they may be looking for.
So three
things that they can use to sacrifice, tactics, strategies, when they're trying to sacrifice so that they can make the gains that they want to make in their lives, make the changes.
Setting clear goals.
Okay.
Being honesty about progress on those goals, and giving yourself the grace to and the leeway to get to that end goal and measure that progress as you go.
So you said set clear goals. Number 2 is be honest on the progress of the goal.
Yeah. And then just be willing to give yourself grace on that journey and learning the grace.
Yeah, I agree. And clear and realistic goals. Yeah.
All right, Rev. What are your 3 tactics or strategies that you can?
So, and I'll speak from experience, and these are things that he just said, earlier. So, I'm kind of stealing from you. I'm not, but I am because you already said it.
I probably stole it from someone else. So we're just putting it out in the universe now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Keep it going.
Plagiarism is the serious form of flattery.
Yeah. Okay. So, one, be willing to make significant changes in the way you do things. So in other words, behavioral patterns, not going to the places used to go to. I had to stop going out, clubbing because it wasn't productive, seeing all those half-dressed women, jiggling around. Like, stop doing that, right? Second, stop you have to stop engaging in behavior that will lead you to undesirable outcomes. So I had to learn to keep my mouth shut and stop flirting with all those half-naked jiggling ladies. Like, just don't say nothing. Like, if you don't say nothing, you can't get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you see them and they ain't in the club; they just walking down the street, and it's like, you know what? Still, just keep your mouth closed.
Hey, I'm thinking, where are these jiggling folks at?
Hey, look, they all over the place.
Go ahead, John, jump in there.
Also, isn't it easier if you're not going to the club?
Yeah, that was my first one. Yeah.
Going to the club, you're cutting down the chances you're going to have the opportunity to talk. That's a huge win in and of itself.
Yeah. That was my first one. Yeah. And so and then no, you good. And then the third thing I would say is have a made up mind on what it is you desire. So if it's to be a non-smoker, and because like part of my stop wanting to smoke was like when I spray cologne on, I want to just smell the cologne and not the smoke too, and so like have a made up mind on like this is what I want for me, this is what I desire. And when you have that made up mind that like, yeah, I'm not gonna be a smoker anymore, like it makes the sacrifices that come along with that a lot better. Because I ain't enjoy smoking. However, I don't want to be a smoker. I don't want to smell like smoke. So it's like, which one do I desire more? I desire to, not smell like smoke more than enjoying the smoke. So, yeah, having that made up mind.
All right. So for my 3, number 1 is the buddy system. It is far easier, oftentimes, if you have someone that can help to hold you accountable. So a lot of times they'll say, hey, we're going to go to the gym together. So when I'm not feeling like it, the rep can say, come on, man, you're going. Oh, I don't feel like it. And then once you do it, it's like, man, I'm so glad I got it done. So having that, one is someone you trust, right? They know what your struggle is. They know what you're going through, and they can help to encourage you to meet the goals that you're setting for yourself. So the buddy system can be very powerful and helpful. The second one is to journal. Keep a record of your progress. You know, there's we've got a busy life, and when you're living life, you're not seeing it. What are your triggers? You know, I'm working on this with Rob. I don't think he minds me talking about this, but you know, Rob can get pretty heated and angry, and so I'm asking Rob to, you know, journal. What are his triggers? What pisses him off? What makes him go from 0 to 60 that affects him, right? Is it being cut off in traffic? Is it someone not keeping their word? What are those things? And analyze one, how many times that's happening in a day, why those things are happening, and then what can he do about it so that he's not so triggered by those things? So is it he is constantly running behind and rushing. So if there is a cutoff in traffic or he's catching every red light, that each one of those instances is just, you know, literally raising his temperature until that catalyst hits, and now he's just frustrated and upset. So journal that, keep a goal of what's happening. And the last one is celebrate the gains, right? We feel like we don't deserve to give ourselves any acknowledgement or any sense of accomplishment because we're so hard on ourselves. Well, I should have never been doing this in the first place. I can't believe I find myself here in my life, and I don't want to be in this space. And how could I have been so stupid to be here? And it's like, it is what it is. These are the cards that have been dealt. Doesn't matter if you were the catalyst of creating your situation now, or it happened to you. You know, a fire burned down your home, which happened to someone here, right? Celebrate the gains. That's important. You know, that saying of "stop and smell the roses" is a real thing, right? It's a journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. All these things that we say, that's what that's really about. So celebrate the gains, right? Give yourself grace on the losses. And I think if you look at some of those 9 things, and of course there are more, all of these things can aid you in your sacrifice. So I hope you found today's episode of the No Cap Recap helpful. I'm so glad you walked in, Sean, because there's definitely value added, right? Giving another different perspective, and so we appreciate that. And again, the vulnerability there.
Maybe he'll join next week's show.
Rev's always pushing. But are you gonna be back this Saturday?
Yes.
What is this Saturday?
If the Lord says the same.
Let me see.
Third, isn't it?
Oh, I won't be here this Saturday. So this Saturday is the Island Festival for Bailey's organization. So they're going to be up at Pendergrass Park. So they'll be covering that. On the 1st, I will be out at close to Point No Point because Tara Simmons is having an award ceremony.
What day is Saturday?
The 3rd.
The 3rd. So let's do it the 4th.
The Sunday?
Oh no, the 5th.
So okay, if my schedule looks like it's open on the 5th, right? That's Labor Day. You good with that? All right. That's my auntie's birthday too. All right, so then we'll do it at the 5th. Maybe we'll do it at the same time. Just make sure that you subscribe, like, and share. And if you hit the bell, then you'll get a reminder of when we go live. So I appreciate everyone tuning in today. For Sean, the Rev, I am Marwan. This is the No Cap Recap. This is the Conduit Network. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.
Good stuff, guys. Yeah.